Our goal hasn't changed since 2009. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air.
Welcome to Rep Radio. I am your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the offices of Inis Nua Theater, and I'm here with Tom Reing.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was not sure what kind of coverage I was going to do for Philly Theater Week, and then it all just kind of exploded on.
It's only
I
the
feel
second
like everybody.
year. It's only the second year, and
But
I think it's really expanded.
It's great. I'm glad it is because, I guess, when you launch something new, you're just nervous at first, but I feel like last year it was well received as well,
Mm-hmm.
and this year it seems like there's a lot of really interesting, diverse pieces of work that people can experience. So this is kind of like I don't know, we're going to give Fringe a run for the money,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But we're here to talk. We're here to talk about Box Clever. And before opening night, I was not sure if it was Box Clever or Box Cleaver.
I don't know where that came about, but we would get phone calls saying, "Oh yeah, I won 2 tickets to Box Cleaver," and I'm like, "It's Box Clever," and it's spelled clever.
Yeah.
But I think it's the phrasing of it.
Yes. So I did have to do a little research and to find out it is a not often used British term. To behave in a careful and cunning way.
Yes.
Yes.
And also the sort of, as it says on the tin, box clever, that you fight clever,
Mm-hmm.
is also can
Yes.
be interpreted as.
So tell us about this piece.
So the play is written by Monsay Whitney, who I think is a really exciting, great writer. It's about a woman in a women's refuge shelter or a group home for women. And she's there with her daughter because of an abusive relationship, and she's trying to either go back home, and the home would be safe, or some sort of independent living, subsidized housing of something of that nature. And it's not, she's definitely is a character that has burned her bridges, but also, the one thing I would say about Marnie is her care and devotion to her child is important. And she wants what's best for her child, and it's actually the institutions, it's actually the bureaucracy that hold her back, not her faults.
Yeah, and that was an interesting point to realize. I just had a previous interview where we were talking about there's so many ways that people try to better their lives, and there is sort of this one way that's kind of like a mystery that not everybody is fortunate enough to even, go down that path. So when people find unorthodox ways, or what appear to be unorthodox ways to get through life, then they get held back, and it's like, okay, well then show me the right way. Oh no, you're not allowed to go that way. It's like,
or like there is a safety net for people who are in this situation, but it's ill-equed.
Yeah.
And so I think we need, not just in the UK, but also in America, we need better resources for people. And it's not any necessarily fault of the individual, but these institutions end up serving the institutions ultimately, not the individuals.
Yeah. So you experienced this in Edinburgh in 2017.
Correct. Yes, I saw it in Edinburgh, and it was one of the best things I saw that year. I was able to meet Monsay, and she also actually performed in the original play. And I said I really liked it, and then we left it to the literary agent. We were able to produce it. But part of my interest in it is before I was a the artistic director of Inis Nua, I was an education director for Interact Theater. And we did residencies at mother-baby homes. And so that I recalled and remembered that and realized that this was important to me, that to showcase this and highlight that.
Yeah. So it's 2 years later. Were there any changes to this in terms of what you saw in 2017?
Not to my knowledge. We're the American Premiere. I know it's being done in April this year at a facility called The Bunker. And I think it was done by either a university or an amateur dramatic company. But the script is pretty tight, and it's a workout for the actors as well. And so I like that it's kind of this Kafka-esque journey that Marnie has, that things keep closing in on her, and she redirects and tries to get away from her abusive boyfriend, dealing with the father of her child, dealing with her current boyfriend, but then distancing herself from him, and all the sort of bureaucratic nightmare that is being in this situation. So.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the playwright, and did you get to explore or discover more of the vision of why the playwright even wrote this piece?
So it was. So I did get to meet her afterwards. It was in this place called Summer Hall, and Summer Hall has a courtyard with a bar or bars, I guess you should say, and food and coffee, and we had coffee afterwards. And I also met the other actress that was performing in it, Avi Simmons, and it was incredibly successful in Edinburgh. I know she developed it with Nabokov Theater, and then it was in the Roundabout, which is Payne's Plough Theater, and then there was another company that supported it early on in its development. But I think it's theatrical, but it also relies on the actor, the actors that are performing in it, and that's kind of, partially because I like it and partially because of budget constraints that we like producing. It's the actor and the story are first, and then all the sort of extra bells and whistles are second for us.
Yeah, I was definitely realizing that these pieces, when they go to Edinburgh, they are for the most part kind of a suitcase kind of.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
piece.
A show in
it's
the bag.
How do we tell this story? Which actually means the story has to be tight, because if it's going to resonate, it can't rely on some elaborate set and some crazy lighting plot to do it. It has to still make its point and get you in and out before the next show comes in. And
and there's the 2 o'clock show, the 4 o'clock show, the 6 o'clock show, the 8 o'clock show in one space, each one a different theater, a different production. But it's incredibly theatrical in its simplicity as well, I think, anyway. I would hope that our product is.
Yeah. So we walk into the space, and the first thing we notice is the scenic design. And the floor is pretty much a board game, which is, Chutes and Ladders?
So it's Chutes and Ladders in America. In the UK, it's Snakes and Ladders, and that's what the floor is.
Yeah.
So you saw the snakes on the floor. And in doing research in the actual game, the game comes from India. And of course, when British colonialism came back, they're like, we'll be taking that, thank you. And they brought it back to England. And the original production was about karma, the original board game was about karma and doing right and avoiding vice and advancing with virtue. So the virtue was the ladders and the vice was the snakes. When it went to Victorian England, they added more snakes to it, and again, it was very sort of in the nature of staying away from vice and things like that. And I kind of thought of it as a nice metaphor for what Marnie's trying to go through, and that she has to avoid the snakes and try and get to the ladders. And so it's not really they don't play the game during the show. There are subtle blocking things where Marnie does something and she's on the snake panel, but that's like the Easter egg of the show. We did actually, though, I will say, during tech, all the designers played a life-size game of Snakes and Ladders, which was brilliant.
There was a moment in the piece where I was just like, it's a board game.
Yeah.
They're playing the game.
Yeah.
Because there's some of it where the movement is very flowy, and it does feel like, oh, she's slipped down the stairs.
Yeah.
So you have a description here that there are some difficult issues here, and we kind of set the audience up for that because we're in this time where, we can't just escape into a theater now. It's real. So sometimes we need to prepare people for that. And so what has been some of the response from the audience?
We have a few subscribers who are also lawyers, and they work a lot with people that are in this situation. I was very happy to find out that they said it's very realistic. Even though it takes place in the UK, it's very similar to the situations that are going on in the US, and that the attention to detail down to some of the clothes that Marnie was wearing are very much like their clients, and that these people do have such dedication and love for their child and what's right for their child, regardless of anything else. That sort of instinct of taking care of your child is so important, and above all, they will do anything to make it right. So. Yeah, but it is tough. I mean, like one audience member who's a subscriber said, usually you do something like this and it's dark and edgy, and then, but you at least give us a little glimmer at the end. And she's like, that didn't happen that time. There wasn't any silver lining, and it's because it's true. Like these people are trapped and need our help.
Yeah, and you're right about that. It's really hard to be hopeful in a situation where that is still broken, because if there were a happy ending, it would assume that things have been fixed, and they really haven't. Because, and there's also a lot of hypocrisy in the situation, especially here. So there is this thought that if you let's say you have an accidental or unplanned pregnancy, that there are options, but there is resistance to those options, but there's no support that complements the resistance. So it makes it even harder, especially if you are trying to be responsible and saying, maybe this isn't the right move for me at this moment. Well, you should have thought of that ahead of time. Now we're going to leave you here so that we can have something to complain about.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, what is your thought on that for this country and for London? Like, if they're not going to provide that support, are they just looking for an opportunity to say that there's a problem here?
No. I think we are negligent of it, to be honest with you. Even our government workers, government elected officials are negligent, really. So the group home that I worked at was part of the Catholic Charities Appeal, but that's just Catholic and there were 8 of them in the city, and you wouldn't know. There's not a big sign out front or anything like that. But there's also Lutheran Social Services. There's the Jewish foundations, and there's public stuff that the city provides for. And nobody knows they're there. And I do think if you need help or you need a leg up, I think our society should provide for that. And I'm not here to judge anybody, and I don't have a right to judge anybody. But if they need their help, that's fine. And the thing is that resources are strapped and are often cut at the first thing. And I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it always just seems like if you are a leader or representative of some subset of either our country or any country, that you should just want to be able to, if not pat yourself on the back, but take pride in knowing that everyone you represent is being taken care of, is has the right resources, is aware of the information. So I make sure that all my people know where all this information is, but instead, we end up just talking around it, which isn't helpful at all.
We are partnering with an organization called Women in Transition, and they are. We're hosting a benefit night for them. They're talking afterwards at our takeaway program, where we bring someone of note from the issue that we're dealing with to talk about it, to show like how people can get involved, can help. They're also like Women in Transition isn't just it's about gaining independence and being self-helping yourself. So it's not just a handout or it's about empowering these individuals, and I like that a lot too. I think it's a good match for us.
So whenever there's a piece that's that's really deep in societal issues, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, is this the audience that needs to see this? But it's more rhetorical. It's not like a yes or no. But then at the same time, I'm saying, will this experience empower this audience to go out and actually be a part of some kind of change? Or does this just make the audience aware of anything? It's like we don't go into a theater with action steps. However, we do go into the theater in hopes to be educated in some way on the plight of this particular character, to draw some resonance to something that we may have heard of in the news or whatever's going on. But it's never really short. It's always a question that I have for myself, how do we make sure that the right people see this? It's always
a challenge for us. I think our audiences are very intellectual. They like to be provoked, and there are also people that might have the wherewithal to help in some way. And so I like that, and also I like that it does take place in the UK. It does take place in London. The same thing is happening here, and you can look at it from a different cultural lens or look at it from a different perspective, but the issue is exactly the same as here, and it's still about people, and that's universal.
And were there any specific conversations that you had with the cast or the production team that just sort of, besides your general direction, that really just kind of, how did that feel in this scene?
I think it's for both Ruby, who plays Marnie, and then Rachel. So Ruby Wolf plays Marnie,
plays everyone,
and Rachel Brodeur plays everybody. And this is now her third show with us. I've always been impressed with Rachel, so she's not only playing 24 different characters with 10 different accents, but because it's Marnie, Ruby Wolf's character's story, she's manipulating all the props, all the set pieces to and she's got that all down. She has cursed my name many times for this, but she's also I knew she could do it, and I think she's great. And then Ruby as this character, when she first comes out, she is so energetic. It's fast paced. She has this wry humor. And then all of a sudden, at some point in the play, it changes. And even though she's cracked jokes and she's been aggressive towards people, you're on her side. And I think that she's incredibly empathetic as an actor. She's incredibly passionate about the show, as is Rachel. And so it was great to have them. And I actually auditioned them together, which just is the way it sort of balanced out. And then I ended up casting both of them. And Ruby had said, after she left the audition, she's like, I hope I get this, and I hope Rachel is in it. And so that was great.
Cool. So you've been doing a lot of press for this, and so they don't all make you talk for about 30 minutes like I do. So what do you say? What do you say for all of these when you run around and to not sound like a broken record?
Well, I talk about this situation, how it translates into America, into Philadelphia specifically, that I am passionate about this, that I think we do need a greater safety net. These people are not just freeloaders. There are people that genuinely need help, and that's okay. And it's, and the ability to ask for help, I think, is good. And I think our society should do that. I think our society should do that a lot more than corporate, bailouts and all that other stuff. I think this is more important, and I'm fine with my taxes going towards it.
Yeah, we do, and we do have a lot of situations where people do ask for help or just give the appearance of needing help, and we give it willingly. Mm-hmm. But like this serious stuff, we need I'm not even trying to be rich. I'm just trying to be able to manage this on my own. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's a conversation now about I forget its official term, but it's like this some sort of like base an allowance or like a salary or some sort of mm-hmm.
Payment
that everyone gets, and mm-hmm. they are sort of testing this out around to just kind of figure out what would happen if you had a little bit of support, if everybody got it, no matter what kind of job you have or what kind of situation you're in, to just allow you to take care of those basics. How would that improve your life, or how would it impact your life in general? There was one conversation I read that in general it was like well-being. It was really just this peace of mind. It gave people sort of the confidence to kind of move forward in life mm-hmm. instead of just constantly wondering how these things are going to get paid. Mm-hmm. Because
and it's stressful for those
and it's different for everyone.
And that puts the stress on you, and gives you more anxiety, and that makes you difficult to work to interact with people, and if that wasn't there, maybe that would be better. I think that we too easily write off these people or caricature these people as somebody that's just always asking for a handout. It's not entitlement. It's people who genuinely have these problems. And when I was working in that group home, I was able to witness intakes of people that were coming into that building. I was just sort of waiting for the residency to begin, and I was just there. And people were coming in, and their belongings were in 2 garbage bags, and their child, and they're not freeloading at all.
Yeah.
And also, all of these things are about, I think the thing should be empowering them. So giving them the necessary tools, whether it's education skills, the ability to get housing, the ability to work on. So our part in the residency, a lot of it was just playing with their child, having the time and having the license and the freedom to play with their child, and how they interact and how they work with their child, because they have all these other things that are going on and they have to attend to, but you need that connection with their child.
Yeah.
So.
Now I imagine there's some sort of, there's definitely some limitations that you had working in that experience. Can you think of a moment where you observed someone in a situation where you had a solution but the system didn't, or you knew hey, why don't you could talk to so and so, but that's not the process of how
definitely there was definitely red tape and things that were. That's not what I'm trained to do. I'm trained to to talk about art and to celebrate people and these people and show them that they're good. We did a project called the Mama Logs, which were all the mothers wrote monologues about them and their child, which was really good. But what it gave them, and we could help sculpt their editing of their monologue, and also I was very I don't want to. It shouldn't be a confessional. it can be a character that's inspired by you, but you don't have to spill it out unless you want to, and you feel that's going to be therapeutic. But celebrating it so that by them creating the monologues and performing the monologues, they got increased self-esteem. There was problem solving going on. How do we work this out? There was this idea of setting up a task and completing a task and seeing the fulfillment. And in those moments where the applause and the appreciation of the audience, these people dropped all the sort of masks that they put up to remain tough, to remain safe for themselves. Just even for a few minutes, that was great.
Yeah. I retired this at some point, but sometimes it's worth bringing back. What do you hope an audience takes from this experience? Because this one's heavy. And
I think that to acknowledge that we need more funding for organizations like this. People need help, and that's okay. And that they see the relevance of Inis Nua theater. That yes, we're talking about a country halfway, across the Atlantic Ocean, but the issues are still the same as here, and that's what's, and you get to see a different perspective, and that's what's important, and it can translate. So that's always a big interest of mine.
Yeah.
And then also, like, the storytelling is really innovative. I mean, like, having just two people, one person who never changes character, and the other doing all the other roles, I think is a clever way of telling a story. It's economical too, but it's very clever, and I think it works well for the piece.
Do you think Philly Theater Week has impacted this play in any way? Or?
I definitely think it's gotten us much more prominence, as far as we've been very blessed with television and radio and podcasts like yourself. I just had an interview, a newspaper interview before you came in, so all that's helpful. It's a tough play, like tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
Yes.
I don't think it's like...
I know, I feel bad for some of these shows that are running on the 14th, and you're like... Yeah.
But last year, we did a rom-com at this time during Theater Week. Mm-hmm. It was amazingly successful.
Yeah.
But I don't think that makes this play any less important.
Yes.
But I still think you're going to see top-notch acting. You're going to see great design. You're going to see great storytelling from the playwright, and so it's worth it. And I do know that audiences are coming because of the Philly Theater Week, the discount tickets, and they're taking a risk and seeing, and they're like, oh, this looked interesting, and so they're coming.
Yeah. So take a risk. It's not really much of a risk. Come see a show at Inis Nua Theater. The production is Box Clever. It's on stage until the 24th, and you can go to inisnuatheater.org, theaterre.org, or you can find these on TodayTix if you're listening to this during Philly Theater Week.
You can also go to tellthestory.us, which is much easier to spell.
Cool. Great. All right, Tom, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I did get the opportunity to go to Edinburgh last year, but I think I missed you. But I think we were in town at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep an eye out for you. I'll be there the first week of August. Yes.
Great.
But thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I know it's a busy week for everybody, but it's busy in a good way. Tellthestory.us, inisnuatheater.org.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Rep Radio continues to be inspired by our community and listeners like you. You can support our work through our fiscal sponsor, Fractured Atlas, and through our Patreon page. Visit repradio.org/donate for more. Stay tuned. You know the rest.